On today's video, we're going to take a look at Epic Collections and find out which are the ones that are most expensive and probably need a reprint.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and on today's video, we're going to be looking into the Epic Collection out-of-print situation. There's been a big discussion about Marvel's Epic Collections and their omnibuses, stuff being out of print, there not being that many reprints. In fact, for Epic Collections, I think there's less than 5 reprints in 2026, which is very low. When you have people trying to join into the hobby and you want people to collect a line of books, you want to give them access to the older books so they feel like they have a complete collection going on. But sadly, there's not a lot of reprints going on for Epic Collections. But the discussion has come up quite a bit of like how many epics are insanely out of print? What is the most expensive epic to get? And so I thought let's do a deep dive on eBay to take a look at which ones are going for the most amount of money. And let's see if we can figure out when was the last time they got printed and if they will get a reprint. I think this should be an interesting conversation topic. I haven't looked, I don't have the answer right now. We're going to look together and find out as well. Also, shout out to TJ Omega who does this with Transformer prices, and I basically thought what a good format to use. So we're going to be going over some epics. I'll go over prices they're currently selling for, and we'll also take a look at the prices they sold for, because I think that also gives us an indication of how much of this is people just kind of speculating what people will pay for it and how much it actually is. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out on future uploads. Hit the hype button if it's available to you. Hit the comments down below and tell me your thoughts. This should be quite an interesting time. So let's take a look. I've got the eBay page pulled up. I've just searched Epic Collection Marvel. Let's just take the Marvel part out. Let's just search just Epic Collection. And let's do the classic sort by price highest first. Okay, so you see this is a problem sometimes looking for comics on eBay. Is your first high things are just people going, epic. That's not what we're looking for. I will scroll until we get to an actual epic collection that's not in a lot. This may take a moment. Okay, so the first one I found here is a Doctor Strange Epic Collection Master of the Mystic Arts for $921.48 from a Goodwill SoCal Books, condition good. This says it was printed in 2021. Let's double check that. Yeah, last time it was printed was 2021. That seems insanely high. That almost feels like a mistyped number, which can totally happen as well. But yeah, that's interesting. That feels like an outlier. Let's see what we get next. Okay, so here we have a Thor Epic Collection 5, The Fall of Asgard, going for $845 plus $522 delivery. Let's see, when was the last time this one was printed? So Fall of Asgard was last printed in 2018, and that means, yeah, there's a chance that actually is going for that amount of money. That does not seem like what it's probably selling for, because look at this stack of 17 X-Men volumes. That's only $45 cheaper, but a lot more in shipping. All right, let's take a look at some more. Once again, I am looking for individual epics, not these bundles, because these bundles, of course, will have like a mix of, in-print books and out-of-print books for those trying to catch up quick. Okay, we've gotten into the range that I was kind of looking for. So we have a Master of the Mystic Arts, which once again, that one's not been around since 2021, which is really weird. That's not that far away in time. It's 2026 right now. That's selling for $500. We got Epic Collection I Magneto selling for $499.50. This Epic Collection, this is like one of the, you go in the Omnibus or the Epic Collection subreddit, and you see people like, oh, when are they going to reprint I Magneto, which is a really good volume. But, this is one that's been out of print for a few years. Like, when was I Magneto released? Because this is one, it's one I have because I found a copy at my comic shop. Yeah, this one came out in 2021 as well. A lot of people have joined in epics in the last couple of years, and so some of these volumes that were just in 2021, I think have shot up a little bit, because there wasn't as many people collecting in 2021 as there is in, like, say, 2024, 2025. Yeah, because here we start to see kind of, this is what I call scalper listings. These are the prices where it's like, I'm going to sell this out-of-print book for $500. Like, people probably aren't buying these, but you're starting to see, yeah, Master of the Mystic Arts, I Magneto, some stuff that's not Epic Collections, and let's see where we end up next. All right, here's a couple. All right, so we got $415 for Epic Collection Volume 4 for Daredevil, A Woman Called Widow. Let's see, when was the last time that was released? 2024. So maybe that's a first printing from 2019, because it does say first printing. So for those that want the first printing of it, there's that version. It's going for more. Master of Kung Fu. This is what I would kind of expect to be high-priced epics, because Master of Kung Fu was canceled. There was only, I think there was only like 2 or 3 released. I'm trying to remember because it was only 2 released, and the third one was canceled because they lost the rights to characters. So this one, which is Weapon of the Soul, the first one came out in 2018, and they're never going to reprint this. So this is one that, kind of is like, okay, well, maybe there is some more value there. But, for $415, you could get all these Wolverine volumes instead. Okay, here's another one that is definitely another one of these really in-demand books. It's Second Genesis, which is an X-Men epic that I think should be evergreen, because this is the start of the Claremont run. This is the giant-size X-Men and onward. It is one of my favorite comics ever, is Giant Size X-Men. So this was last printed in 2023, and before that it was only printed in 2017. I feel like Marvel should make an effort to make this volume always available, because the start of the Claremont run is so iconic, and this even goes into some of the Phoenix stuff. Like, it is a very in-demand volume that I think should always be in print. I don't think, will this get a reprint though? Absolutely. This will absolutely get a reprint at some point. It is X-Men and Spider-Man, like the only ones getting reprints this year. So I will say this is probably going to get a reprint. Don't ever go pay scalper prices for this one. But it's one they really need to have all the time. I don't see why they don't. It's one of those volumes that I think will always sell. All right, here's one. We've got the first printing of Excalibur Volume 2, The Cross Time Caper, going for $380.16 plus $32 delivered because it's located in Italy. When was the last time this one was printed? Let's see. We got Excalibur 2. It was printed in 2018. So it seems like a lot of 2018 and 2021 is kind of like where it's hitting some of these higher prices. Again, would they reprint this? Probably. They've only reprinted one other Excalibur volume, which was the first one. So maybe it's a little bit lower. I'm not giving financial advice, by the way. Oh, here's where I thought we were going to start seeing these. The Conan epics. Marvel doesn't have the rights to Conan anymore. They can't reprint any of these. These are out of print status. So seeing multiple Conan volumes, that I get. That I understand. Why is Thor Fall of Asgard going for $403, though? That seems a little insane. Here's a Star Wars epic. Okay, they don't reprint those as often because there's so many of them. More Conan. Like, we're starting to get to the point. But, also, I will say, I would never buy an epic collection for more than a Alex Ross signed print of Frankenstein. So, you just have to work your way. Also, looking at this, is this the paperback of Exoswords? We're getting off track. Yeah, it's the paperback of Exoswords. That seems insane. Exoswords is a book that's now really in demand because they're not including it in the Krakow Omnis, and people are like, Marvel, reprint it. And I champion that. Marvel, reprint it. But yeah, it's very interesting that there was stuff above the Conan stuff. All right, here's a United Kingdom one, so it's like $400 for a Spider-Man Volume 3. Spider-Man No More. When was that one last released? Because I imagine 2026. Oh, that one's getting a reprint. So that's always a thing to do. Don't ever buy an epic on eBay before checking to see if it's getting a reprint. That one's getting a reprint. It just came out in 2022. It's in 2018. That's a pretty favorite volume, looks like. It's been reprinted as much as Volume 1. So I was going to go deeper into like just getting into the, like the $200 range. But I kind of feel like this is starting to get to a point where I'm like, I'm just seeing a lot of stuff that probably isn't selling. So let's go take a look at the sold listings and see what people are actually purchasing for higher prices. Okay, so right off the bat, the first one I see is a collection of 21 Captain America volumes for $1,000. That I won't say that's necessarily the best, but I also say that's not too bad considering that is 21 books. 21 books for what is that? 1,033.72. Let's run the numbers on that. So 1,033.72 divided by 21. That's $49 a book. That's basically cover price. That's actually not too bad. Someone got a good deal there. The downside of that is, having to drop $1,000 in comic books. And here's some other bundles. Let's see if we can find one that's a single volume. Okay, here's one. We don't know what the final price was, but there was a best offer accepted on Star Wars The Menace Revealed, which is an early volume of the prequel trilogy comics. It was originally listed at $450. The seller accepted an offer lower than that. But when was The Menace Revealed? Volume 1 was released 2018. So was there... this is my thing. I don't know if I was collecting epics in 2018. I don't remember if I was consciously collecting them. was there low print runs in 2018, or is it just kind of like the market's catching up to an era where not as many people were buying them? It's kind of interesting. Oh, here's one. All right, so this is the next one I found. That's a single. Because you see here, like, all 8 New Mutants for $325. That's not a bad deal. If you're looking for old epics and you're wanting to get an entire line, maybe look at some of these bundles, crunch the numbers, see if it might be cheaper. All right, so Fantastic Four, the Master Plan of Doctor Doom, sold for $300 plus $22.90 shipping. This one is one I don't have. I have all the Fantastic Four epics besides 3 of them. This is one of them. And I feel like because it's the Stan Lee Jack Kirby era, it's going to get reprinted at some point. I'm just kind of holding out hope. But this one was last printed in 2021. That's another 2021 that's harder to get. And I've had that issue too. I've looked around. That was also like, COVID was still ravaging stuff and the printing issues came up. That's definitely the case. Because you see, there also was a 2021 printing of the World's Greatest Comic Magazine, Volume 1, and then they reprinted it in 2024. So I'm kind of hoping that, 2017, 2021, can we get a reprint next year of Master Plan Doctor Doom for its 10th anniversary? It'd be nice to see because Volume 1, Volume 3, they've gotten 3 printings each. Volume 2 hasn't. Volume 4 has only gotten 2 printings. Volume 5 has only gotten 1 printing. That's the other one I'm missing. Volume 6, only 1 printing. And that's the Stan Lee and Jack Kirby stuff. I feel like maybe it's time to reprint the other ones for Fantastic Four. I think a lot of people are a lot more interested too because of Fantastic Four First Steps to see the original run. It would be a good thing to get those back out again. The other one I'm missing is 25, which came out in 2015 and has never been reprinted since. These get hard to get sometimes in the long runs like this. And then, of course, we have a bundle of Conan for $300. That's not bad for Conan. Okay, next up, here is Star Wars Epic Collection Original Marvel Years 1 to 4 set. Never mind. I didn't think that was a set. It was. So you can see as we're scrolling through this, even though there are people selling a single epic for $500, people aren't buying a single epic for $500. I think, also, if you're going to spend like $500 on a out-of-print book, I think a lot of people might go, well, I should get an Omni for that price. I don't think you spend $500 on books that likely would get reprinted. It's the stuff that's not ever going to get reprinted that, it's like, all right, you make your decisions. But you can see here, like, here's a Second Genesis with a Proteus bundle for $240. That's 2 out-of-print books. That's probably a better deal. Oh, here we go. Punisher Epic Collection 3 Kingpin Rules sold for $229.99. Now, Punisher was out of the Epic line for a bit. They just weren't doing anything for him. Let's see. When was the last time this was printed? 2019. So that was pre-pandemic, pre-comics reboom. The only Punisher volume that's ever been reprinted is Volume 2. All the rest of them only ever came out once. And there was a 5-year gap? Yeah, there was a 5-year gap between Return to Big Nothing and Survival. There was like no Punisher epics for 5 years. Very interesting. Here's another Conan. This was $225, but it was an offer accepted. Here's another Menace Revealed. So you can kind of see there's certain volumes that are actually selling for these prices. The Clone Wars, which is Volume 2 of the Clone Wars, that sold for $220. So I think it's really interesting to see which books demand this. Here's another Fall of Asgard, which actually sold for $200. Because you can see that sold for $200. Here's 11 epics for $200. It's interesting because I think also when you're a collector, right? Like, for example, like if you're trying to like collect Wolverine, and if you have all the Wolverine epics, you still have gaps, but it's just a matter of Marvel making Volume 4 and Marvel making Volume 10 and 11, right? But if you have all the others, you're like, oh, I'm good to go when they make those gaps. But then also, like, I can understand, for some people that are like, oh, I only need 1 volume. Maybe I'll just spend extra on this 1 volume because I got some others on sale. And I've thought about that with my 3 Fantastic Fours I'm missing because that would kind of finish my gaps and I wouldn't have to worry about it. There was, I think one of the Fantastic Four epics out of the print. I found a copy at a comic shop. Wasn't in the best shape, but it was discounted from cover price, and I was like, I'm going to get it, because I don't know when they're going to reprint this again. Does seem like they need to reprint Menace Revealed. There seems to be a market for it. But also, I wonder if Marvel looks at this too, and they're like, well, people are buying those prices. Is that satisfying the demand? Because that may be the case as well. But I'm noticing a lot of the sold listings for these epics are just they are bundles, not single volumes. Here's an Old Republic Volume 3. Again, I think it's like if you have Old Republic 1, 2, and 4 or whatever, and you just need 3 to finish your set, I can see why people would spend the money on that. Here's another I, Magneto. definitely needs reprinting. But someone got a better deal here. They got Brood Saga with I, Magneto. So it's interesting. Oh, there's Cosmic Adventures. I know that's a Spider-Man one people want. There's another Master Plan of Doctor Doom. There's a Fear the Reaper for 200. And then here's The Name is Doom. That's another one that sold for 200. You know, it is kind of crazy sometimes to look at these prices, and you got to wonder, like, well, what's Marvel's strategy with reprints? And it does seem like, you know, I know Near Mint Condition does the reprint polls, send them to Marvel. I hope they're looking at those, because I think that when you have a group of people saying, we will give you money for these books, then it's probably a good idea to do that. But let's do one last check through things. I want to go through like the major characters, like X-Men, Spider-Man, that. See which is the highest price. I'm going to go with the current, what's being currently sold, as opposed to the sold listings. But what was the current highest price you can find for a single epic from the major lines? All right, let's start with X-Men, because I have almost all the X-Men epics. I'm only missing Volume 3 now, because they're reprinting all the ones I'm missing. So I'm doing pretty good. Let's see, what is the first one? Oh, it's I, Magneto. I think it's going to be I, Magneto. This is it's a big Claremont gap. It's a big volume. When was it printed last? Because I'm trying to remember. Let's see. I, Magneto's printed in 2021. I feel like a lot of people weren't buying epics in 2021 for very good reasons. They reprinted Fate of the Phoenix in 2023. Actually, is that the only Claremont volume that's not gotten reprinted? And I'm not going to include the last couple of years. So let's say here, all right, Brood Saga came out in 2023. Yeah, it's too soon for a reprint. God Loves Man Kills 2024. That's still available from a lot of places. You know, we just got Life Death. We just got Wounded Wolf. Oh yeah, The Gift came out in 2015, but they just reprinted it in 2024. Mutant Massacre is coming up, and Disillusion Rebirth got 2 printings. So I think, yeah, outside of the stuff in the last 3 years, which is kind of like, you know, if it's got to be more than 3 years really for them to reprint it, for the most part. I, Magneto is the one they haven't reprinted. All the others have gotten 2 printings for Claremont, except for this one. So I hope this is on their list of reprints. Maybe, you know, I want the Sentinels Live back out again. It's another 2021 volume that's hard to get. But, you know, if I was Marvel, I'd say the next reprint should be I, Magneto. That's my advice, at least, from what I'm seeing here. There's a lot of that. And then put Second Genesis in Evergreen in some way. I think that's essential to people starting X-Men collections. So definitely that's the case. Let's take a look at Spider-Man, since he keeps popping up at the top of our screen. All right, first one I can find here is $333.33 for The Goblin's Last Stand. That's the first printing in 2017. When was this released? Okay, so this was in 2019 and 2023. So it's been printed twice. This one says first printing 2017, but it's actually 2019. So that is the first printing. Maybe later copies aren't so bad. Spider-Man No More, we talked about that. One's popped up quite a bit. What's one that hasn't been reprinted a bit? Man-Wolf by Midnight is going for $241. When was Man-Wolf by Midnight coming out? That was 2022. So maybe that one's also kind of due for a reprint. It doesn't seem like Spider-Man is as bad off as some of the X-Men volumes. So, you know, it's still bad, but it's not as bad. Definitely putting things in perspective. All right, let's go with the Avengers and see where we end up with them after we find one that's actually the Avengers. Okay, Masters of Evil. This one's going for $315. When did this one last release? That was in 2017. Okay, so it's been several years. Probably time to do it again. All right, let's do Fantastic Four next, because I want to see where we're at. Okay, so we have a first printing of the More Things Change for $273, but More Things Change just got reprinted, like not that long ago. Yeah, that just got reprinted last year. So that's not, yeah, that's just if you're only into first printings. Where's something that hasn't been reprinted? Okay, Battle of the Behemoths is selling for $200. That was volume 7. That was 2021, once again. Right under it, let's see, we got War with Atlantis. War with Atlantis was 2020. So there you go. And that's one Jack Kirby volume, and it's the Stan Lee and John Buscema volume. And then we got The Name is Doom, which is at $200. That's a Lee and Kirby volume. The Master Plan of Doctor Doom is not one that has listings very often. We saw it in the sold listings that it sold for a lot, that second volume. There's not currently listings of it. I've been checking. It's not doing so great. Let's check on Ghost Rider, because I've heard the first volume of Ghost Rider is not only out of print, but going for very crazy. Look at that. So Ghost Rider's selling for $150. for the first volume. That was 2022. That's what it says there. I'll actually double check. Yeah, 2022. It's not that long ago for it to be going for that much. And Ghost Rider, you know, I love Ghost Rider, like one of my favorite Marvel characters ever, but like not a high seller, not a common occurrence. But yet there's the first volume selling for $150. Yeah, that probably needs a reprint, because I know I've been seeing a lot of people talk about like, oh, I got 2 and 3, I'm looking forward to 4, but I can't get 1. It's kind of a problem when the run is that short. All right, let's do Star Wars next, because there's a lot of Star Wars epics. Star Wars. So what is the most expensive Star Wars epic on its own? Looks like here's a $400 listing for Original Marvel Years Volume 4. Yeah, the original Marvel stuff is popular, which I do get. And here's Menace Revealed at $350. Also Tales of the Jedi Volume 1. Menace Revealed seems to be a common, like, people are actually spending the money on that, as well as it's selling for a high amount. And just for fun, let's do some Conan, since it is out of print. Oh, look at that, $3,000 for Conan 3. No one paying $3,000 for the Conan, especially because I think Titan's been reprinting a lot of this stuff too. Here's a King Conan number 1 for $475. Here's a Conan Chronicles for $425. Here's a Conan Chronicles number 2 for $400. Yeah, the Conan stuff, it's out of print and it's never going to be reprinted, so it's going to go for a lot. Let's do Daredevil. He's got a show coming up soon. Let's look at Daredevil. See where we're at with Daredevil. $415, Woman Called Widow. $299, Matt Murdock Must Die. So yeah, maybe, you know, Daredevil's, I think, it's not too bad. Here's the next one, Brother Take My Hand at $180. It's not doing as bad as some of these others, but you know, it's up there. Also, they keep putting this sponsored sold thing of like, go look at this guy's comic stuff, and like, maybe I will if you have decent prices. Because for me, with epics, and we're just gonna cap it off there because I'll just keep going and deep diving. For me with epics, you know, if I'm going for an older book on eBay, I try not to pay more than cover price of current cover price. So current epic cover price is between 50 and 60, right? Some are 50, some are 55, some are 60. That's the average rate now, which I think is way too high for the page counts. Like, obviously, we've talked about this in other videos, like DC's, you know, throwing out like 1,200 page compendiums for the same price Marvel's throwing out a Guardians of the Galaxy epic. But I think for me, like when I'm looking for out-of-print epics to fill those gaps, I was searching for Wolverine recently, I make sure I don't spend more than what it would cost when they reprint it, right? So if I spent like $50 on a Wolverine epic and they announce a reprint tomorrow, I'm not going to be mad because I spent the cover price of what it would be later. Like, obviously, you can get some discounts at some stores, you know, that sort of thing. But I'm trying to pay more than cover price. I feel like I'm good if I'm like spending, you know, only 50 to 60 for an older epic. Especially if it's one to fill a gap, to fill the collection out. So that's kind of what I look for, and that's how I deal with it. And I'm not going to drop $100 on an epic. I don't think it's going to be worth it in the long run, and I will wait it out for a reprint if that's the case. Or one of the biggest things is don't necessarily like make eBay your only shopping spot for older epics. Check bookstores, used bookstores, comic shops, all kinds of things. Like physical in-person stuff, you can probably find better deals. Like there's some comic shops that will just sell things at cover price. They're not going to go look up what the current eBay value is. They'll just sell you whatever the cover price is. And you can get an older book that way. Used bookstores especially, they're just going to take it in. They're going to be researching the price on stuff. They're just taking it in and selling it again. So always take a look around at physical shops that you can, because that's better sometimes than paying $400 for a few issues of Spider-Man. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. That was an interesting deep dive, and it should be interesting to see. I hope Marvel brings the reprints back in 2027. If 2026 is like a transition year, I know they're changing like leadership in the collected department, but if 2026 is a transition year where we only got just X-Men and Spider-Man reprints, I hope it's just the case, right? I hope next year there will be like, all right, we got all our stats and data, we need to reprint all these for these other lines, because it would really help some of these newer books sell if people can fill in the gaps of their collection. Like, a lot of Fantastic Four fans, like myself, have like up to volume 24, but now that they're releasing 26, now I really want 25. Before it was like, okay, well, that's the last one, you know, it's not really a problem yet, but now I really want 25 because 26 is coming out. So it's that kind of thing, but yeah, it's something to keep an eye out, and good luck hunting if you're looking for old epics, because it can be an experience, but like I say, check physical shops as well. That can sometimes be one of the biggest benefits. So that does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, hit subscribe and the notification bell, hit the hype button if you have it, hit the comments, let me know what you thought. Stay tuned for future videos. You can join our Discord server and continue the conversation using the link below. You can also check out the channel memberships and get perks like early access to videos and special shoutouts. Let's give some of our channel members some special shoutouts. Special shout out to all of our channel members, including Nick Dole, Shadowmaster420, The Nesquick, Merc Fools All Day, Shadow Dante Games, Lord Tapman, Evan Rougemont, Wario's Digital Farm, Standabout, and DJ. Thank you all for your support, viewers and channel members alike. If you so wish, I'm on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You can also find my wonderful graphic designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643. You can find Hero Club at HeroClub.com for comic reviews and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, good luck on the hunt, because some of these prices are crazy.